What's up, dudes? Welcome back to another episode of Rhomas Men's Team. Pretty simple. We are a group of guys helping each other make progress towards each other's goals. If you're new to the channel, awesome and welcome. If you want to help support the channel and join our pro team, head over to rhomasteam.com/pro, where you can contribute to us on a donation basis. We also give you access to exclusive content, mastermind groups, etc., etc. So anyway, hope you enjoy this episode, and we'll see you on the team.
Currently
sweet,
live.
Man.
How was everyone's
Cool.
week? For asked. Pretty good. Not gonna lie, pretty good.
Yeah, this week was great. I just found out like our goal for the year was bring in $1 million of new money per week, and we're at 800,000 right now. 800,000 per week. So I think we're gonna hit our goal. I know, and by the way, it was a huge goal, like huge stretch goal. For the finance company.
Seems like it. Seems like that's a big
Yeah.
goal. So you guys, so
Yeah.
you're doing that you're averaging out what you do, and then at the end of the year, you'll see if you hit that on average per week.
Yeah. And this is not to pat my chest, but it's just to give sort of allegiance to setting goal-driven numbers, because goal-driven numbers help you. Let me reverse that. Number-driven goals.
Yeah.
It just makes it that much more specific, so it cuts out a lot of the BS, right? Like, okay, will this help me get to, like on my coffee mug, will this help me get to $1 billion in assets, right? Like, yes or no, versus are we growing, right? Like I want to grow a lot. And that's cool. Like that can totally work, kind of like the towards or away thing, totally. But I think the more specific that you get, it just helps put a degree of certainty or lack of certainty that you're going to reach that thing. And I think both those different types of goals are helpful, but I think in terms of career, numbers just help me a lot. So when I first came to the firm, the firm was bringing about 4 million in the entire year. So now we're talking about having a goal of $1 million a week, which is dramatically different. So the fact that we're even 80% of the way there is pretty insane. And I'm very grateful and blessed, all the above, to be able to say that we're almost there.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it is true. Because again, I think the generalized goals are a fantastic starting point. But knowing myself, I can do a couple things, get a couple W's under my belt and be like,
Yep.
Done for the day, did it.
Yep.
And if that's the pace of life you want to go at, I think there's nothing wrong with that. It's better, literally way better than not doing anything.
Yes.
But like you're saying, if you want to go to high level, the numbers, goals, dude, for writing, for me, it's the same exact thing. I have to specify how much do I want to, like if I'm really trying to churn something out and get something done, it's 2,000 words per day. And it's like, it has to go. And then if I say, let me see what I got, I'll crap out at like 12. It's like, it's 1,200 words. I can do that and be like, man, that was nice. It's those last 800 words that I got to slog out. And that's like, if I don't have that number goal, I won't do it. And when, it seems like nothing, but like 800 extra words per day, that adds, that's like, something taking 5 years, something taking 3 years versus 5 years, or 2 years versus 4. It's like, it seems like, whatever, it's, just go do it every day. But it's like, yeah, and that's cool. But when you set that little number goal, man, it does make a big difference.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, it adds an extent of severity to it. I think we constantly have to remind our brains what our priorities are. And oftentimes numbers for me are how to do that. And, much to the aggravation of my girlfriend, questions like, okay, on a scale of 0 to 10, where does this land? So we can start to orient ourselves around how serious are you taking this? Because I do think words a lot of times are watered down. You might use one word, I might use the same word, and we might have a 50% difference in degree of that word, versus numbers, we're less likely to make that same severe mistake.
Yeah, no, I could see that. I can definitely appreciate that. Well, it's that's good, and I'm glad. Like I said, that pumps me up, man. I always love hearing that shit. Of just knowing that it's going like that, and it's just, especially what were people's reactions when you set that goal? People were like, "What?"
Yeah, well, I think it's those types of goals that, if on a team, they can generally be not dismissive on purpose, but it's like, oh yeah, there he goes again, like that sort of thing, and especially the long-term goals, because it's so hard to see. But then you break it down, no different than we broke down finance, a couple weeks ago with Saad. It's just, okay, like here's, what's our cost per acquisition of a client? How do we actually get there? Right? Okay, I want this. So how do we get to this? Like, okay, what's our average client size? What does it take? Do we need to increase that average client size? Okay, let's say it's this. We need each client to bring in $1 million. Okay, what does it take to get there? Let's deconstruct the last 10 sales to make sure like that we have a reasonable, roadmap of getting there. Okay, it takes this amount of phone calls, this amount of appointments to close, blah, blah, blah. Right? It's very logical.
Yeah.
And then so you come in every day saying, okay, I've got to do these things.
Yep.
This is what I have to do. If I want the billion, then I have to do this. And if I don't, then it's saying that I don't want it.
Yep. Or at least I'm not going to get it. And it kind of takes the pie out of the sky. Because it's like,
Mm-hmm.
you kind of say like, and that's literally it. I can say, I want to be a billionaire. And it helps. That's like for me, that's a really good tool too. Because, when you tell people, set goals, like where you're going to see yourself in next year. The one thing, because you want to nudge people, like get out there, like, don't be afraid to really put it out there and like throw what you want out there. But at the same time, on the flip side of that, it's like also break down your goal into like, what would this take per day? What would this take per month? So that you can, it's like literally an easy way to check yourself, whether you're pie in the sky or just kind of like mentally masturbating with fantasies versus like, is this an achievable thing you can actually do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So. And then asking yourself, like, if you do that exercise, do it with enough goals. Don't do it with 100 goals, but do it with 4 or 5 goals. And then you will see roughly what your daily habitual schedule would look like. I personally think a daily habitual schedule should take up anywhere from 2 to 4 hours a day.
Yeah.
Okay, so then ask yourself, would I like that day? Right? Because everybody can say they want to be a billionaire or a millionaire or whatever, and everybody can say they want a six-pack, and everybody can say they want the hot girlfriend or whatever that is. But it's like, okay, well, when deconstructed all those goals into your daily habits, right? It doesn't have to be 24 hours a day, but let's say it's 2 to 4 hours. Would you like that 2 to 4 hours? And if the answer is definitely no, then I would wager against you.
Yeah.
Because there's too much friction on a daily basis, which is actually a really good barometer and stress test as to whether or not you actually want the goal.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And if that's coming from an innate place within you as well. Because again, like, if you don't want anything to do with the things that need to be done to get it, it's like, do you really want that? Or you just think, like, does it just seem cool from a distance? Also, I think that's a really good clarification. And Gunther also said, I do like the abstract approach sometimes to complement the numbers in the game. I genuinely think that's just what you said, kind of, Wes, of like, you're using the numbers, and I would tend to agree with Gunther and Saad on that a lot. However, I can overly abstract myself into a place where I'm like, if I'm being honest, I start to get frustrated, and I go, why aren't I getting anything done? And it's like I use numbers as kind of like a quick flashlight. I go, oh, Jesus Christ, okay. And I can look, I don't have, like, it's not like everything has to be boiled down into like a math equation, but like it is very illuminating, especially for someone like me. I'm very averse to numbers. But when I pop them up on myself, I go, okay, all right, put those things away, and I'll, now I've been reoriented. So yeah, I think that, and just again, I do think that's the litmus test, man, because it isn't just about numbers, like Wes was just saying. It's like you use the numbers as kind of like you're building a bridge. So you need to do the math, you need to do the engineering, just to like get the shit on the paper, and then like you were saying, you think about inhabiting that reality, which then comes into the more subjective, because the things are kind of tied together. So.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I mean, and I could say I completely agree with the guys and you, Matt. So I'll give you an example. Like it all depends on how high the goal is and how exact it needs to be. So I can tell you an example, like with my physical body, how part of the year I'm extremely numbers driven, and the other part of the year I'm more abstract driven. So for instance, like when I'm doing a competition in men's physique, the numbers are it's a science. It's a one, like, and there is no deviation from the plan. I remember my first bodybuilding competition, I ate a few pieces of chocolate and I wanted to like stab myself in the leg after. I was so pissed because it hit my numbers. That's the only time I ever cheated on my bodybuilding diet. Like, but that was during competition mode.
Mm-hmm.
So that's extremely numbers driven. There's no negotiation. Well, now outside of competition mode, I've got rough broad stroke architecture of what it means to achieve my daily health goals. Eat a bunch of stuff. Like, it's the density diet, that we've talked about a lot. Like, so yeah, I completely agree. I think if you go too far one way or the other, or if like all of your goals are numbers driven, I think most people, it's going to drive them crazy because you feel like a robot. I think if you go only abstract driven, all of a sudden you'll find yourself in a sea of relative non-performance to your expectation. Yeah. And I do think the bridge there, Matt, I think that you're hitting on beautifully, is when that happens, generally speaking, if you're not hitting your goals and you find that they're more abstract, I love the analogy you use, like put a flashlight on them, but you have to be willing to look at your numbers. Like, numbers don't lie. And if the numbers are lying, then you're just looking at the wrong numbers.
Yeah, man. No, I completely agree. And again, it's with the sobriety thing, I get like these things. Sometimes these like approaches can for some reason, I think it's just the way we think, tend to be kind of like camped and separated, when in reality they're just layers of, they're just kind of, bless you, they're just layers of, they're layers you stack on each other. You know what I mean? It's like, I can have, I have my little list I pop up all the time that it's mostly just words, and I use like colors to make sure that I am actually doing those things. But I could go back and count the days that like I didn't journal. I didn't, and that'd be a useful number. Like, am I doing it more often than not? And it is good to know that. But with the sobriety thing is like I think Saad was saying that you kind of like, it's day 30, it's day 34. And I could 100% see that, how it's like at a certain point, it's like I'm at 148 days of sobriety. It doesn't feel that special. You know what I mean? Like, I got to show that, and then in that instance, it's like, don't. And I think it shows something cool, because it's like, you can overuse the numbers like with that. Like, I'm 168 days sober versus like 400 days. And it's like, if those 168 days are just kind of like, that's all you have to cling to, is that, I just didn't use drugs. It's like, then it's time to fill those days to the point where you're barely even noticing how many days it's been. That's a point where it's like, that would be cool to like lose track. Like, I don't even remember how many days it's been. And the thing that I've been working on personally, I think that touches on this, hopefully I'm not shoehorning it in. It's just as much as I can, I try to remain on, and I'm obviously not perfect in this regard, but I try to stay on like the bleeding edge of my experience at all times, if that makes sense. Like, I try not to like when I catch myself, this is the only way I can explain it. Last night, Maya wakes up, it's midnight, no, you're never really pumped to get up at midnight and, put someone back to sleep, especially you don't know, like, are they going to fall back asleep? Are they not? So I catch my brain going like, this is bad. And to me, that's not the bleeding edge of my experience. That's me saying what it is and then being like, this is bad, versus just kind of, it's not bad or good. I just have to hold you now until you fall asleep. And then, some parts of it I enjoy, some parts of it are kind of frustrating. But there's like it's like a little tweak of things I do all the time. If I'm in like a heated discussion with Brittany, I can go, this shouldn't happen. This shouldn't be that. And I just lately have just been remaining as present as possible for all things. And like, there's stuff that pops up in me if I'm not like blank, but it's like there's a huge difference where like last night I was able just to stand there for like, I think it was an hour, from like midnight to 1, and there was a couple breaks in between, because I would like go to put her down, she would pop back up in 2 seconds, Brittany would get her, but for the most part, I stood there for about 35 minutes solidly, just like this, just swinging a little, swinging a kid, and it's like they're grabbing your nose, they're doing stuff, and you just stay totally patient, and eventually it's like the most satisfying thing. They just go, and you feel their body just go, they just run out of steam and go limp. But it's like, if you're impatient, what happens is, if I'm like, this is bad, I shouldn't have to do this, you put them down prematurely, they spring back up, and now they're reactivated. So it's like an exercise in extreme patience, where you have to, exactly like Kaizen was saying.
Yep. I agree with what he said.
I'm just experiencing this thing. I'm like, I'm up now. Maybe I will be tired. I actually don't feel tired. I feel pretty good. But it's like, I'm just, I'm up, and you're up, and, you're pointing at my nose for some reason, and you should be sleeping, but it's like, I'm going to wait you out. And it works so well, because if I get frustrated, then the whole thing just falls apart. So it's like that. And I've been applying that to every single situation. If I can like remember that, I try to just apply it and be as fully present for everything as possible. And it's been working pretty well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I think Kaizen hit the exact note that I would have said is the assign, like, what do they call your brain your brain is a meaning making machine.
Mm-hmm.
So you have the choice to make it mean whatever you want to mean the situation.
Yep.
So if the situation means, why is Maya doing this? She's the most evil little child in the world. And now I'm not going to be able to get sleep. And if I can't get sleep, I'm not going to be able to drive to the Poconos on time. And if I can't drive to the Poconos on time, Kevin's going to hate me. Like, a whole bunch of this stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
so I completely agree.
It is, and it's that, and it goes, oh, and she should. What age is this? They should be sleeping all through the night at this age, and you do all. There's a million things, little rabbit holes you can go down, and instead, it's like I just sat there, rocked her to sleep, and put her down. She went to sleep, and I was like, sweet, and I left.
Yeah.
And
I think that's awesome, man.
And I've been doing it with all aspects, and it sounds so subtle and simple, but like, dude, I catch myself getting that's like my signal somehow, and I think this is just through meditating. Now, like when I get activated like that, there's like a feedback loop that goes like, pay attention right now to what's going on. Like it was specifically within you. There was a guy who recently I was watching this video, and the guy was saying like everything, and you can take this with a grain of salt. I think this is a cool mental model, but it was like everything you're experiencing is just pointing back to you. It's some way in your involvement in it. And every time you're frustrated, like as quick as you can, pull all of your focus back in on yourself and being like, why am I experiencing this? Like, how am I, how should I deal with this? And like, do I need to be feeling this way? And just take full, no matter what it is, full responsibility of the situation. At least you can, even if it's horrible, at least I can learn something from this. And dude, it's been helping me tremendously.
Oh, dude, I can tell you that, like, especially in finance and just in general, certain areas of my life, taking on the challenge and saying, okay, how can I breathe through this? I've been trying to take your advice, Matt, and do breathing exercises. And man, it's very hard to simulate real life chaos. Yeah. So it's like when real life chaos comes up, it's like, that's a fucking awesome opportunity to learn the exercise of breathing through. I was just listening to an interview with John Danaher and Lex Friedman. John Danaher is like the Bill Belichick of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He created this team called Danaher Death Squad, and which I think has recently broken up. However, like this team apparently just like steamrolled the entire, league of jiu-jitsu rollers, if you call it, or athletes. So anyway, he was talking about this, and the question posed to him was, okay, John, a lot of people out there want to learn fighting not to compete, because oftentimes competition fighting has different rules to where it starts to get different degrees away from actual fighting if you were to experience it, in the street. Hence, like when you see like a karate match, it's like, okay, who's coming at you like this? And like we throw one, it's like, it's not a real life situation where somebody's throwing haymakers at your face, So anyway, he said every single time he recommends somebody actually training in competitive sport fighting and then learning how to alter it for real life. Because if you do something like Krav Maga, where you cannot practice the things, like, okay, when someone comes up to you, poke them in the eyes and chop them in the throat, right? Like you can't do that on the mat, like in a practice situation. So anyway, the whole point is that he believes that basically as like real life practicing, or as close as you can get to like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you can actually go full out, like 100% in BJJ. Krav Maga, you can't even go 10%, So to your point, you're helping me with is, okay, well, when life throws you the real thing, right, that is your dojo mat. Practice on that. As opposed to like even meditation to a certain degree, which obviously I love, right? You're usually starting meditation in a mode of non-conflict or non-chaos, usually. Yeah. So it's like, how effective is it relative to if you try to practice that same meditation in an area of conflict?
Yeah, I mean, dude, it's like keeping a car in the garage. It's like you got to take the baby for a spin. You got to take it out of the garage, and like can you? I think it's good to learn in the kind of like controlled environment, just like you're saying, just so you can get in touch with the principles. Because if you have no, access to like cultivating a certain type of feeling or state of expansiveness, they call it. Like it's hard to be like in the midst of arguing, being like, all right, let's start to learn how to meditate. It's like it doesn't make sense to do it, but like you're saying, I totally agree. Eventually, I personally think you got to take it out into the world. And like, does this stand the test of, my actual stress in life? And just like Ray's thing is my bad mood caused by this situation, or is it my mental commentary? Bam.
Yep.
It's like, dude, you ask yourself that question a bunch of times throughout the day, which again, I've recommended 1,000 times. Mindfulness bell app on your phone, set it to go off on the hour. And it's like that thing rings, just ask yourself that question. Or anything else you want to focus on. It's crazy. It's insane.
Yeah, no, I think it's spot on. I think what Kaizen is saying is spot on. This is what we practice this for. Yep, 100%.
Yeah, especially I like it too, getting altitude on situations. Yeah, all that stuff works. It's just you don't realize how automatically your mind jumps into like, this is what that situation is mode, and you just never question it. Once you start going like, is it really this? It's like, not really. And you're all right, well, I can just totally drop it and lose it. And I will say, this is a weird thing, and I'll get off this topic, but I've noticed this year was the first year I didn't need allergy medicine. Did not need to take any sort of allergy medication. And I've researched there's a direct connection between stress and histamines. So antihistamines are what like is in like Aleve, Zyrtec, all that shit. Dude, I've been really de-stressing myself a lot, and this is the first year in I think 3 years I didn't take Zyrtec. I used to get crushed if I didn't take it for 2 days. Yeah. And I just breezed right through summer. No, I didn't have any. It was really weird. I'm not saying that's maybe, who knows what it is, the body changes. But I was pretty pumped on that, and my I have been getting my sleep disrupted, but I don't really feel tired, and I think a lot of that's from the fact that I'm not lumping extra unnecessary stress on. I've been stripping a lot of it away. So
I think I could totally see the order of operations there. I mean, when you're constantly stressed, like the amount of energy you spend is tremendous. So I don't think that sounds like woo woo at all.
Yeah, it's insane, dude. It really is crazy, man. And it's like, again, the price initially is you kind of have to fall out of love with your mind, because it's like, I was convinced I was right, dude. I was like, I'm it. I know what's up. I know what's going on. You start to like be like, nah, forget that stuff as much as I can. You still use it as a tool, but like, I don't know. Either way, but that's been a positive development for sure.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, absolutely, buddy. So a couple options here. I know Ray, he texted me. We were texting back and forth. He's got an interesting situation on his hand. I don't know if he's up for coming up, but I know you want to bring somebody on. Ray is definitely an option that we could talk through.
Right, I'll invite him up. Ray, if you don't want to, no prob. Also, Wes too. Me and Wes talked, and I think moving forward, and I want to gauge everyone's opinion on this. I think we've talked about this before, but I'm going to really make an effort to stick to it. Just really take one person at the beginning of the week who just comes on Monday. Do it almost like a case-by-case basis and rotate. It's one person's week every week who also gets to here's what I'm doing this week, and then check back in Friday. So if anyone's interested in that, please let me know. I think it would be a nice addition to this.
Hell yeah.
Ray, what's up, brother?
What's going on, Kings?
Chilling,
first thing I want to do, oh, dude, it's a dream machine.
Dang.
I've brought it to the car wash like 3 times already. I just love touching it. And it's so great. You going to get me that title?
Dude. I haven't gotten it yet.
All right.
I'm the worst.
You bought the car, no title?
No, it's good. So it's like, first
you haven't transferred any money yet.
I'm kidding.
And then also, if I get in an accident, I'm West Rowlands.
True.
Yep.
So until we pass title, that's just something to think about. Also, Saad, if you're in Toronto right now, hit me up, and what we can do a goal session together, because all this talk about goals with Saad on Monday, and then at the beginning of this session, pump me up about because I've got my house. I showed you my vision board last week, Wes, right? I got my house, my country house, dream country house, and my dream Florida residence. And so I've got my house, but I don't have the other two. And so what I say is, in order to achieve these real estate goals, I need to do the following, right? And I go around my small pictures on the vision board. But I don't have a plan in terms of saving money or how much each one costs, or what I have to give up each day, in order to or how much I have to save each day or each week or each month.
Yep.
So that's
100%.
So Saad, I'll work on that with you. If you're here in Toronto. So all right. So the case study I want to work on today from my life is a business breakup. Okay.
Oh, I am so sorry. can I please interrupt you? Can I fangirl real quick?
Sure, go.
Okay, so Matt, do you remember on Monday, I talked about, I don't know if you remember this, I talked about the book Never Split the Difference. I had
Yes.
Ray, remember last night how I gave you advice, not gave you advice, but told you what I would do from Never Split the Difference? So we took our team to do a goal planning session on this hotel called the Monarch right on the beach. And I'm talking to my partners and I'm looking and I'm like, holy shit, that's Chris Voss, right? The author of that. And I watched his master. So I ran up to him and was like, Mr. Voss. So we ended up talking for a little bit. Super cool freaking guy. Was wearing badass like Rocky gloves, fingerless Rocky gloves. Came over to talk. Yeah. Which is exactly what I would expect him to wear. Hostage negotiator. True. Came over to the table. So anyway,
did he pump up the team? Did he give the team a few remarks?
No, it wasn't like he was super. He used radio, radio FM DJ voice like the entire time. He's like, oh, that's cool. Nice to meet you guys. Like that sort of thing. But man, one of the best books I've ever read. I reference it all the time. So it was super cool to see somebody that I was like, holy shit, man.
That's pretty tight.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. So anyway, sorry.
No worries, man. Right on. Some of us aspire to meet Drake or Bono. You aspire to meet that guy from that negotiation textbook. And that's all good. So
Can you not hear, Wes? Can you not hear?
That suits me fine while I'm trolling him.
I know.
But Matt, anyway, Wes is intimately familiar with the situation. I'll break it down for you.
Sure.
So I've got this this friend of mine who introduced me to now my biggest client, right? And the terms of the relationship were, hey, I've got these super rich new friends. They're looking for this particular artwork. What do you think? Can you find it for them? And then we'll split the commission or something. Or we can cut me in on the deal.
Yeah. So they're like sort of middleman in a deal.
Yeah. Or no, basically like he wanted a referral fee. I do all the work, but he brought in the client, right? Which is fine.
Sure.
But then it's either I agreed to or it has turned into he gets 50% of everything I sell these people.
Whoa.
And
okay, he wanted that perpetuity thing.
Yeah, because and from his point of view, I guess like I never would have met them if not for his introduction.
Yeah.
Right. And so I have sold them 4-5 pieces now, and it's time to have this conversation before. Sarah every morning or every night when we go to bed, she's like, "Have you had the conversation yet?"
Yeah, I hate that.
And she's right. The worst part about it is she's right.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I hate it.
And so I feel like my choices are I can either like keep giving him 50% of my income, or I have to start lying about how much each piece is worth.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't want to do that.
Yeah, of course.
Of course. I want to have the grown-up tough conversation that.
Did you agree to these terms up front? Where you're like, yeah, fine.
I believe I did. I believe it. Let's operate on the assumption that I did. That but like, and I guess I wasn't thinking, and Wes is like, Wes, I remember you saying like, it was a rookie mistake, right? Or do you want to take it from there actually?
Yeah. I mean, this is not a new problem. Happens all the time, right? Especially like, it's just called buying business in the business world, right? Like initially you got to feed your family, or you perceive you have to feed your family, and everything's new. So it's like, yeah, okay, any dollar is a good dollar. Mm-hmm. So the part of the rookie mistake was not putting iterative terms on it up front. Mm-hmm. When you're entering into a new landscape in business, in my opinion, you always want to say, hey, let's try iteration 1. Let's revisit back in a month or 2, right? To see if it's working. Because that gives you the permission and the upfront expectation for everybody to have this conversation a month from now. If you don't do that, then inevitably, right, like the probability of the initial deal working is kind of on the lower end for any deals, like any deals forever. So if you don't do that, well, now somebody's expectation has to be broken. So it's like, okay, Ray is kind of in the red zone now, in my opinion. So this guy almost for sure has the expectation he's going to get paid 50% on whatever projects forever.
Yeah, that's not even a finder's fee. That's like
That's a business partner. That's like an equity partner's fee.
Yeah, that's kind of a bum. That's a really well, the other thing too is like, so this is a way I would think about framing this whole discussion, saying, hey man, like, so first of all you can say at this point is like, I kind of think this agreement is a little bit, overindulgent. I don't know if that's the right word, but like, I don't like this agreement, man. I think I made it when I was kind of in haste. And it's like, well, here's my question. What if the person that he referred you to refers you to someone they know? Like, what do I have to give you 25% or like, so I would just, I would float that idea by him and just say like, dude, I genuinely, is this like your friend or just like someone you know?
This is somewhere in between. I'll call him a friend.
I would just say like, I would just say genuinely like, dude, I don't feel good about this. I think it's 50% on every single deal is way too much. 50% on the initial. Yeah, I could see that. But like, dude, dude, honestly, it's very funny. This happens with selling weed more than you can ever imagine. Oh, you have to pay me in perpetuity every single time, even though I don't do anything except for the initial meet and greet. And, honestly, I've gone back on these. I've told them, like, I'm not doing this anymore. Fuck this. And, in that space, it's like, what are you going to do? But it's like, I think you'd have to just make up your mind and say, hey, man, I think this is bullshit. You caught me when I was kind of hungry. And now I'm going through the deal and I'm saying, and if he can say, oh, you agreed. And it's like, yeah, well, I hate this deal.
And Wes, you had some great advice on how to structure it because, and shifting it to, look, if you want to make, first of all, everyone thinks selling art is free or is easy rather.
Yeah.
They see me host a dinner party, point at stuff on the wall and you think people just throw money at me. So it's like, the introduction and me actually selling the art, I mean, he probably thinks they're equal efforts, which they are absolutely not. To convince someone to buy something that just hangs on the wall and gathers dust and actually creates no like utility for your life, doesn't feed you, doesn't house you, doesn't clothe you, is very hard.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I just wanted to get that off the table. But shifting him from like taking a commission for each subsequent transaction perpetuity to, if he really wants to make money, go out there and find new clients and get money on that first transaction.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I think a couple of things. And I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. It's the way that I would do it versus Matt versus you versus whoever else. So I would be careful. I like the model of like always assume ignorance before malevolence. I think if you kind of go in hot and you have any tonality that says like, hey man, you're screwing me over, right? Like, in his mind is like, oh, I had no idea. Like it was my first deal like this too. But now since you're attacking me, my natural reaction at a subconscious level is going to be like, well, fuck you, you're screwing me over,
Mm-hmm.
Right now you're in a dogfight, which is okay if the end goal is to illustrate dominance and then not do business with the guy ever again. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But if the end goal is to keep on getting business at a reduced rate from what your deal is now forever, then I would consider the stuff that I texted you last night. Like, building rapport for the first handful of minutes of the conversation, reminding him, and my headset cut out, so I don't know if Ray brought this up, but the guy in the past, and Ray, correct me if I'm wrong, kind of said like, hey, are you sure this deal works for you, sort of thing. I think,
Well, so specifically when I explained to him, I was going down to California, inspecting the work, making sure the people were real, wiring a deposit. Once I saw the painting, wiring the rest. Yeah. Then coming back, he said, in a kind of like at the end of a sentence, kind of quietly, maybe we could, if they keep being labor intensive like that, maybe we could edit down our split or something.
Exactly. So he's already got that little ember, right, of like, okay, this doesn't seem very fair. So he seems like could be a relatively reasonable type of person. Maybe, we'll see, or at least in the vein of this discussion. Right. So I would build off of that. Like you now make it his idea, as opposed to I'm changing the deal. Hey, that idea that you said in the past, that actually seems to make sense now, given the fact that I did go through all this. And then I would really belabor all of the details of that last deal, right? Like I'd put emphasis on the right things. Like I flew all the way to LA and I got caught up, like all this kind of stuff. And then I would say like, you're right. Like it was a shitload of work.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, you're netting more than me. This deal has you netting more than me. and I've set this whole thing up. The thing, and since he brought that up, that's perfect. I would just bring up, say, hey, in honor of our deal, let's kind of do a law of diminishing returns thing, where like I'll give you maybe 25 or 20% on the next one, and then after that, like if you find another one, we can do like a little 50, 20, 0% thing. Mm-hmm. That would be fair to be like, I'm not going to just cut it off, but like let's reduce this drastically, and then going forward, if I ever get anything from that guy, like again, his extended network, that's for me. Like that's I'm going to take that on. So yeah, dude, if he brought up the fact, if he's feeling guilty about it, he knows he's going. Yeah, I feel and again, like Wes said, I think that's really important to assume that that was just like, well, yeah, I guess this is just how it works. So yeah, man, I think if you have that discussion and just say, hey, dude, this is it just weirds me out that I'm doing all this work and you're making more than me just for one referral, which should be a referral fee. That doesn't happen in real estate with realtors. You get paid once and that's it. You don't go like I'm.
Well, actually, Matt, a friend of mine is a real estate agent, and a friend of mine was looking for a house, and I connected them, and I didn't take the referral fee.
Yeah.
Because that's what friends do.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah. Can I push on you on that?
Go.
Yeah. So I would be real careful, only because, dude, I encounter this type of thing almost on a weekly basis, given the industry I'm in. I would be very careful about how it says, like if somebody met with me and they started to try to like teach me, do you know what I mean? About how we made like that I was the catalyst for the wrong deal. I would say like in my head, and this is I wouldn't say this. It'd be like, okay, fuck you, right? Like, like I'm not your mom. So now you made a big boy deal. We shook hands on it, and now you're blaming me for how it's not working. So I would personally, depending if the goal is to keep on doing business with this person, because to me, it would show that you're just not experienced and you're not owning up to the inexperience. That's the difference versus saying, hey, like I just made a mistake. Like there was way more work involved in this. And I talked to a few other friends and they're saying like in the way that and this is price anchoring, the way it works in their industry is this percentage, right? So what do you think about that? That's kind of, in my opinion, more of like, hey, my bad, made the wrong deal. Yeah. It's not sustainable, and it's not your fault. It's actually my fault, because if you go the reverse way, like now I'm questioning whether or not I want to do business with you, and I would not go down the road of, oh, by the way, like I sent this guy a referral. He was my friend for real estate. That is not the same thing. Like I promise you, I counted this 50 times last year. I promise you that human incentive must be aligned. I guarantee you, Ray, if I told you that I would pay you $50,000 for every time you referred me a real estate client, I guarantee you I would have more referrals from you this year than I did last year if you just did it.
I should qualify that if the real estate agent came back to me with a referral fee, I'm not sure I would refuse it.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Gift or something, yeah, exactly. I think that's kind of how the world should work anyway. Of just like, yo, thanks for that. Here's X, Y, or Z. But I think Wes is 100% right, man.
I think if
you can come in and be like, dude, I fucked up. Fuck, man, I don't know what to do about this. What should I do? He might even offer a better deal than you were prepared to offer him, out of the goodness of his heart.
Right, because my ego, like this is the way I'm wired. I preview it as a screaming match.
Yeah, exactly.
When you see a big guy, or when you see someone coming down the street, Matt, I mean, you've talked about this before, and you just preview in your head some kind of scuffle.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's never a neighborly hello or something, right? It's always the scuffle. And so, I think that's from my ego, feeling bruised and just like this festering for so long. I keep previewing this argument and all these like one-liners. Yeah, well, you never did so and so.
Yeah.
But I think there's an old man in my neighborhood who has all kinds of like funny mantras and like one-liners and wisdom and stuff. He says, profit before pride.
Yeah.
Profit before pride.
Yeah,
so,
it's right or rich, the same thing. Yeah, it's very similar. It's like, exactly.
So what does right or rich mean to you, Matt?
It just means like, what's the best deal going forward? You could, like, do you want to be, in my term, I would say right is more of like, do you want to satisfy your ego or do you want your business to work? And it's like, right is satisfying your ego. Rich is having life work in a, more wholesome, holistic context. So yeah, just coming and stroking someone else's ego. I had a situation one time where, so my wife was at work. She was, I think, like 9 months pregnant. And there was a dude there who was just like, really, we had gone to dinner together. It was like work friend stuff. He was just aggravating the shit out of her constantly at work, just fucking bullshit. And she would call me and complain. So I called the guy, and that's a heated, right there. It's a heated discussion of like, why the fuck are you bothering my wife at work? And I'd like been in his house, like I knew the guy kind of, and he just had one of those personalities where like he's kind of just is fucking like he'll just like bug people, and that's just who he is. Whatever. So then this is the way I was, very careful in how I worded it. It was because it's like, you don't like, my wife's 9 months pregnant. She's on the, the greatest state, and then so I basically called him and I was like, dude, could you do me a humongous favor? Could you just leave her alone, bro? I said, dude, I don't care. I don't care who did what. I'm asking you as a person to do me a personal favor. Could you just stop fucking with her, man? Please, for me, rather than if I had been like, you'd better stop this.
Yep.
That wouldn't have stopped. But I'm like, could you do me a favor? I'm putting you up here and me down here, and I'm getting what I want.
Yep.
But like you can really stroke other people's egos very easily by just being like, hey, humbly I request, and they're like, oh yeah, you know what? I got you. Yeah, don't even say no. Say no. Rather in my head, I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? There's that wouldn't have helped the situation at all.
Yeah.
Right.
I completely agree. I think the methodology that kind of outlined to you yesterday, I would definitely stick to. Now, here's the fork in the road, right? So you build rapport, you admit inexperience, and ask for advice, like almost like Matt's saying, like you ask for a favor, right? Like, hey, give me advice, or can you do this for me, etc. Now, there will be some jerks in the world, right? We got to realize that. So some of those people will say a version of "F you, buddy," and like, no, we need to keep the same deal. So the final last effort that I would give is, funny enough, from that book, right? Never Split the Difference, in a very calm and borderline serial killer way, right? Like
that only Wes can do.
right. What the book calls radio FM DJ voice, which is just like, how am I supposed to do that?
Yeah.
How am I supposed to do that? Right? Like,
I love that.
Asking a very calculated question, and it forces them to answer. Now, their answer might be, well, I don't know, you figure it out. Well, now you're dealing with an unreasonable person, and you cut ties. And you do that in whatever way you would see fit. I would personally do it because at that point, I'd probably get a little enjoyment out of it. Be like, okay, great. Like that helps me make the decision.
Sure.
We will have to formally end this relationship respectfully.
Yep.
Now, I might not do it so respectfully depending on what level of a jerk he was. But chances are, if he's still being a jerk and you ask him that question, you still have a decent chance that he says, you know what, like, you're right. And if you're saying it with the intention of actually finding the answer, not like, tell me how I'm supposed to do that, like that sort of thing. It's like, how am I supposed to do that? Like, walk me through, how would you do it?
Yeah.
Right. And if he can't articulate it, then you know you're with an unreasonable person. If he can't articulate it, then you know you have something to move forward with.
Absolutely.
Oh, and Ray, do not make the same mistake. Even at the end of this conversation, if all goes well, which I think it very likely will, because at the end of the day, right, it's dollars in his pocket. Remember that, and get him to remember that as best as possible without being a jerk. Also, before I transfer to the next topic, make sure you price anchor. Do not just say, like, what do you think a good deal is? Because that gives him the opportunity to say a ridiculously high number again. Oh, I think 47% is good, right? Well, now you're again in debate. So you price anchor with examples of other good deals that you've heard about since you've talked to other experts. Does that make sense?
Or look it up on Google. What is there there might be a standard going rate for that
some
industry.
Sort of benchmark, right? Yeah, some sort of benchmark. Now, he only has so much wiggle room versus somewhere between up to 50%, Okay, but the last part of that is ask him honestly, right, like what he would do, and do not make the same mistake of not being iterative again, right? At the end of the talk saying, okay, or in the middle, like say, let's revisit this as we go along every so often to make sure it is a good fit so we can move with the market. One thing, though, I would be careful that's kind of come up. You might want to be careful about, how do I say this? you have a choice. If you bring up the referrals from the referral, you now have to formally put in place arithmetic around that. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
It's your choice. So if you say, okay, well, what if you refer
Wes,
me
time
Bob?
Time out. Like, the new model should be, for my effort, I get paid X, and for your effort, you get paid Y. The referral for the referral requires no effort on his part.
There you go.
The referral from the referral, I still have to sell them some turkeys to hang on their wall. So my effort is still required. It's not.
That's what I'm saying.
So there's no
Perfect.
So there's no effort. So I don't know if there should be a reward. Furthermore,
I don't think there
referral
should be.
from referral isn't guaranteed.
Gotcha.
Yes, and that's what I'm saying. You have to make the choice on whether or not you want to bring that up. I would be hesitant to bring that up.
I agree.
Yeah. It seems like now he's making a double concession when in reality it's like just let that one lie and just be like, dude, get out of here with that. Like, come on, man.
Yeah. I would let him bring up. Obviously, you take the risk of referral number one giving you a referral, and then referral number one tells your buddy that he gave you a referral, and your buddy gets butthurt about it. Well, then it's just another coffee conversation. Be like, oh, hey, my bad. Like, I didn't. That obviously, in my opinion, is not workable because now I pay an eternal tax to you, right? There's not.
Yeah.
So,
no, exactly.
But I would leave that for later.
Yeah. And if that comes up, just be like, what are you trying to sleep in my bed, dude? Like, get out of here, man. Come on, man. Jesus Christ. Yeah, at that point, and there's like a fiefdom. He becomes your vassal. But no, that makes sense. I do to Wes. I 100% agree. It's like just leave that possibility off the table and let those folks. That might not even be an issue. That's a whole other thing. That could be like, oh yeah, whatever. So yeah, I think that's definitely the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
Right, and I think at the root of it, it's like what Kaizen commented: avoiding conflict makes it worse over time.
Oh,
this isn't it. This is just a case of a healthy conflict.
Yeah.
Like, this is an uncomfortable conversation that has to happen.
You'll feel so much better. And especially when your
dude.
wife brings it up right before bedtime, you're like, not right now.
You always do this.
Yeah. That's kind of.
I have to be explosive. I have no other weapon at that time.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys can relate, but I have learned my lesson about sharing information, right? Because then I'm held accountable when in like very unreasonable timelines, especially to, like, in my opinion, like my significant partner, right? Like my significant other will like randomly bring up stuff like, oh, how's that going? It's like, well, I've been working on the 55 other things, right? So please don't ask me there now because it's going to get me very upset, So I don't know, like, depending on how your marriage is, and I would be careful on how micro, right? Because entrepreneurship can be so volatile, right? And it's like you only expecting to win a small fraction of business deals. So if you tell her about every single deal, right, all of a sudden you're opening yourself up to 55 inquiries when it's too premature. I'm not telling you to keep anything from your wife, but it's just what level of resolution should it be shared with others who are not like actually operating the busince.
And it doesn't have to be to the wife. It's just in general.
Yeah.
In general. Right? Oh yeah. Just in general.
Parents,
for your own
everything.
psychology.
Yeah.
If I told everybody about every single conversation I have and that it could be the biggest deal ever, and then people are following up with me constantly, oh, how'd that big deal go? How'd that big deal go?
Oh.
Now it's hitting my psychology. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
I remember I got a job once, and my mom was telling everybody that I got this dream job. And by the time everyone asked me about it at Thanksgiving, I'd already been fired. And so I had to say, Mom, that didn't work out. My dream job lasted about 2 months. It wasn't a dream job, actually. It was kind of nice. But I just had to have that conversation like 25 times. So.
Oh, so
exactly.
funny.
Right. It's too premature to share that information.
Yeah.
Right.
So, cool. Anybody
Yeah,
got goals they want to share from the week so we can get on? Because I know Matt's got to run to the mountains. If anybody has anybody to nominate, and Ray, thanks for bringing up the topic, brother. That's a great topic to watch.
I hope it's got some utility for the other dogs.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it could be used for non-business deals as well, like just agreements with human beings.
Yeah.
You should never sell your soul to any agreement. Like, oh, let's do this forever. It's honestly one of the problems that I have with marriage. Like, it's like, oh, let's do this forever. No questions asked. Right. It's like no questions asked, no iteration here, no pivots, no contingencies. Right. That to me, it seems like humans don't do good with. Hence the 71% divorce rate out here in Orange County, you know. But I'm the bad guy when I bring that up, and marriage should be this sacramental thing that, you know, is so eternal that 71% of the people actually don't follow through with it. But anyway.
Well, this is the men's group. It's a safe space.
Sure.
You're good. You're good, bro. You're good.
So far I have Kaizen, I got Gunth. Let me see what else is popping in here.
Ryan. Okay, and so Chalupa Cabra. I mean, awkward transition.
Oh, Ryan's got married.
Chalupa Cabra just tied the knot. So he just got married into one of those non-iterative transactions. So good for him. But don't listen to Wes.
Oh yeah, this is not a blanket statement towards
Wes has
everyone.
zero experience with marriage. Wes, do you have a bunch of secret marriages?
Absolutely not.
Matt's got too much experience with it. He's got multiple wives. Henry VIII over there. And
so I'm currently working on my marriage PowerPoint.
Oh, dude.
Yeah. For myself.
That must drive the girls crazy.
Dude, I got Kaizen, Gunther, and Ryan. We're topping it up right now. And Gunther's in the Discord as well. Kaizen, I threw Kaizen up as well. The reasons is Ryan got married. Gunther's been hitting the gym hard. Kaizen's been hitting the gym hard as well, and he's been doing some court stuff. I don't want to spill his stuff too much, but he's been doing some very important court stuff.
Who was that?
Kaizen. Family
Yeah,
advice.
Kaizen, if you want to direct message me about the court stuff, I can't give you any advice or anything, but I can just listen. I was the world's worst lawyer. I mean, I failed the bar exam 6 times, never passed. So like, I think I have I got an idea. Like so my advice would be like mostly good.
Yeah, I mean, you could. There are certain states you don't need to pass the bar.
I know, but look, like.
That's what's up. Yeah, so Kaizen, the court it was like
move there.
Kaizen was like a family court situation, and it's working out well.
I'm glad, Kaizen. I'm glad. That's like that shit is hard.
Yeah.
I've got a family court situation going on with my family where my dad he's dying of cancer, and my mom is fighting him for like ownership of the house so he doesn't pass it to my sister.
Jesus, yeah.
And it's like, you know, it's like Survivor with like the different tribes and like extinguishing the torch.
Dude.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
Yeah. But I'm so like, and it's driving them crazy that I'm just like, you guys, whatever decisions you make, like I'm leaving, you know, I'm not getting involved in this family drama.
Yeah.
You know?
And Kaizen, it says, I'm seeing my boy regularly now. So, okay, so it seems like it was some sort of custody issue.
Yeah.
That's awesome, Kaizen.
Yeah,
my heart ached for you, bro, when you were explaining it before, and I was just too bummed to answer you, man.
Yeah, I gotta say, for me personally, I've been on the periphery of that, and I've seen how unbelievably emotionally and financially taxing it can be. So going through that, dude, like, you know, I give you big props. Like that's an enormous fucking belly of the beast undertaking, man.
Yep.
Dude, imagine how strong Kaizen's little boy is, dude.
Strong
fucking.
It's so funny. We're completely tainting the polls right now. This just keeps rising.
I know. Well, I mean, I had to give that picture.
I know.
You know, outside of not having experience with it personally, I've now had touched the experience, and dude, it is a freaking nightmare. And these attorneys,
throw a
dude.
Tragedy in the comments, quick before the phone closes.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't want to belabor the point, but like.
No, I hear you, man. I mean, I'm pumped for Ryan and Kaizen, but I will say that does take getting married rules is sweet. That also takes a superhuman effort, delayed over time. The family court. I know a guy right now who he drops his kids, 2 of them, off at the mom's house, and like people come out to give him the finger from the house as he drops them off, and it's like to just not light the place on fire is just like a Herculean effort, and it's like, yeah, I have tons of respect for anyone who could do that shit.
Dude, it's brutal.
It's like, what the fuck?
Oh, dude.
Just double bird, just fuck you, and it's just like, these are just dudes. Yeah, whatever.
Like I need this right now.
Yeah, it's like.
Well, and then the amount of trash talk that's probably happening about the parent on the other side. Like, dude, it's brutal, buddy. It's awesome. So Kaizen, man. I'm sorry, Gunther. He said somebody unvoted for me stuff out here.
No, I know. I put the vote back in.
All right.
Next to Gunther.
Let's call it. Congrats, everyone. Congrats to all these bros, dude. These are, these are
Gunther,
every
it was an
week.
honor to be nominated, dude. Come on.
These are every week showing up and just being absolute animals.
Yeah, man. Kai's and Gunther just basically running the Discord.
Fucking Ryan, dude.
Hell yeah.
Married. All right, bros. Well,
thank you, sir. Thank you for your advice on this.
all right.
Heck
Later
yeah.
on, guys.
Later,
And
Weekend.
whoever wants to do next week, start to finish, reach out on the Discord and we'll figure